You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. Or maybe you should. Millions of dollars worth of holiday presents and other goods Americans have ordered are stuck on giant container ships waiting for a space to unload at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Call it a case of freight expectations. There's so much cargo arriving from Asia that some of it has been diverted to other ports in the country. It's led to an epic traffic jam that no one seems able to untangle, and it's revealed deep flaws in America's supply chain. What started as a shop-from-home binge during the pandemic has had lasting effects. Retailers warn these holidays will be marked by empty shelves, higher prices, and lost jobs unless the backlog is cleared. We wanted to see what it's like in the busiest ports in the country, but first, we had to get on board.
The story will continue in a moment.
Space at the Long Beach docks is so tight that when a slot opened up at 1 a.m., the port pilots wasted no time. They sped off into the dark, and so did we, following Captain James Dwyer up a rope ladder as he climbed aboard to guide the giant ship, the Ever-Linking, to an open berth.
We're inbound for LA berth 405.
Steering the ship through the harbor, he told us pilots are handling twice the usual number of vessels.
Right now we're just in our slow turn to port to get onto the main channel.
With the port glittering in the distance, Captain Dwyer from the bridge slowly turned the 100,000-ton ship around.
Stop, engine.
Oh, back up.
Yes, sir. We're going to go stern first. Oh, stop. Awesome.
We found this feat of parallel parking unparalleled.
Push easy.
For the last few yards and inches, Captain Dwyer stuck his head out the window to guide the behemoth in by sight.
Can we let go of the tug line aft? Let go of the tug line easy.
It turns out docking a ship the size of 3 football fields is the easy part.
How about that?
Getting the goods from here to store shelves is proving to be a lot more daunting. It used to take 2 days to get cargo off the docks. Now it takes 9. To see why, we took to the air with Ryan Peterson, CEO of Flexport, a technology company that buys and sells cargo space.
Look at how packed this is here.
Yeah, totally packed.
We flew over the sprawling ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. 40% of all U.S. imports come through here. We saw stacks of marooned containers, dormant cranes, loaded rail cars sitting idle, the country's busiest ports packed to the gills. And out at sea, more than 80 ships stretched to the distance, a new record. They used to pull right in. Now they can wait weeks. Peterson told us this backlog has been building since the start of the pandemic.
Is it getting worse?
Definitely getting worse. It's as bad as it's ever been right now. Right there, do you see all those blue cranes? There's no ship.
That makes no sense.
That's what I say. It makes no sense until you realize, hey, the yard is totally full. See how high those stacks are? Totally jammed up.
So when you see this, what does this say to you?
I think a lot of businesses are at risk if they can't get their products in time for the holiday season. And of course, it also means consumers are going to pay really high prices for everything.
So this is what inflation looks like.
Yeah, this is inflation firsthand.
The problems at the ports have cascaded across the country. So we followed the supply chain from the choked ports of LA and Long Beach to rail yards in Chicago. Along the way, we found chaos, finger-pointing, huge profits and massive losses. And everywhere, frustration. Bobby Javahari's frustration was palpable when he lifted his warehouse door to show us inside. So what should this look like?
Yeah, you right here, you wouldn't be able to walk in here. I mean, we got boxes all the way to the ceiling. This would be fully full.
So what do you think when you see it like this?
It's unbelievable. There's never been a month that's empty, ever. fact that Christmas is around the corner and it's empty, it's shocking.
Java Harry runs Yeti Houseware. He imports household appliances from China. He told us his goods have been delayed for 6 months. Now he has thousands of orders he can't fill, and his shipping costs have soared from $2,000 a container to as high as $25,000. He blames this crisis on the ocean carriers.
I call them the pirates of the sea. They're 100% price gouging, and no one's done anything about it.
It's not just market forces?
No. I really don't buy it. It's price gouging, and it's someone taking advantage.
And it's hurting your business.
Yeah, it's hurting my business and many other people's businesses.
There's too much coming in through the U.S. supply chain, and it's not leaving the port fast enough.
So that's why you've got these ships backed up here.
That's right.
Gene Soroka is the executive director of the LA port. He told us the entire system has been overwhelmed by the tsunami of orders flooding in from Asia. Who is making money off of this? Who is benefiting from this backlog?
Liner shipping companies will make record profits this year again. They're booking more cargo than ever before. There's a supply-demand issue.
So the price just keeps going up and
Prices skyrocketed on these trans-Pacific trade routes. There's money being made.
This month, the world's largest shipping line, Maersk, reported record profits of $16 billion, up 68% from last year. The ocean carriers, most headquartered in Europe or Asia, say demand for cargo space keeps rising. They blame a shortage of truckers at the port. Take an empty in, take a full container out. Where is this falling apart?
In the fact that we, because of the booking systems, have restrictions on the type of container that you can bring in.
Matt Schrapp of the Harbor Trucking Association told us there's no driver shortage at the ports. He says it's the antiquated booking system that's gumming up the works. Schrapp told us normally truckers make an appointment to return an empty container before picking up a full one. But with so little space at the ports, there are new restrictions on even the color of container that can be returned. Truckers can wait hours in line only to be turned away because there's no room. Some of the terminals will say that the no-shows of your drivers, 50% of the time they don't show up. How do you explain that?
Well, we make appointments because we don't know sometimes until the day of whether or not we're going to be able to return an empty container back into that marine terminal. And then all of a sudden, the day of, they say, sorry, we're not taking any more rust-colored containers. So it's just, it's a game of whack-a-mole, literally.
The result? Lots like this, full of empty containers sitting on chassis, the undercarriage that holds the container and attaches to a truck.
Without a chassis, you cannot move those containers off of dock, and the majority of chassis are sitting under empty containers strewn around California.
So the chassis are necessary to move the full containers out of the port.
Absolutely.
But most of these chassis are now being used just to hold empty containers.
That's correct.
This is the definition of a bottleneck.
Absolutely.
People are ordering early, and so
That's not the only choke point. In Chicago, we met Rick Waldenberg at his family's toy business, Learning Resources. Every year, he imports toys from China and brings them here by rail. He told us this year has been a nightmare. How long is it taking to get the product from Los Angeles here?
I'd estimate that the domestic lead time is 45 days, and that's unbelievably slow. Pony Express could have gotten it here faster.
Waldenberg told us he tried to avoid the backlog by placing his Christmas orders in May,
As a toy in it for Christmas.
only to hit a monumental snag in Chicago. There was so much cargo at the rail yards that his containers got stuck at the bottom of a pile for 9 weeks. He told us it was like having his toys held hostage. The kicker, the rail line charged him for storage. This, on top of paying $30,000 for a container from China, 10 times what he paid last year.
If that were as bad as it was, that would still be horrible, but it gets worse because we get penalized for storage. And that's where it becomes the theater of the absurd. So the $25,000 to $30,000 is the market gone berserk. But the penalties are a punishment that is unconscionable.
So wait a minute, your cargo is being held up
Right.
for nothing you have done wrong.
Correct.
You can't go pick it up,
Correct.
but you have to pay for it to be stored.
Correct.
The rail yards told us it was all due to congestion. Rick Waldenberg told us he paid almost $1 million in storage fees in September alone. Can you afford this?
No, I can't. It's impossible to absorb this kind of expense. So we had to raise our prices. And these penalties are gratuitous. They're not incurring extra expenses because of this.
Sounds like you're saying they're charging you extra because they can.
Sure feels like it.
Now, with inflation the highest in 30 years and the holidays fast approaching, there's a flurry of plans to break the logjam. Starting tomorrow, Gene Soroka, who runs the LA port, says he'll fine the shipping lines for any cargo that sits on the docks more than 9 days. And last month, President Joe Biden announced the ports had agreed to work round the clock, but it hasn't had much effect.
We typically work about 19 hours a day here. It's that 3 to 8 a.m. shift that we've added and tried to get others to work with us during those times as well.
So you might be working 24/7, but the warehouses are not.
That's right.
So they have no place for these goods to go after they get off the ship at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And there you've just diagnosed the problem. The cargo has nowhere to go. We've got to get a workforce in the warehouses and the trucking industry that are complementary to all this cargo that's coming in right now.
There is a lot of finger pointing.
Yes, there is.
The truckers blame the terminals. The terminals blame the shippers. The retailers blame the truckers and the shippers. How do you get that contentious group to sit at the table, stop pointing fingers, and actually clear out this backlog?
That's been the toughest part. We haven't moved the needle yet, but it's not for a lack of trying, and we're going to have to just double down.
The whole supply chain mess has put a spotlight on glaring deficiencies in U.S. infrastructure. Flexport's Ryan Peterson says there's no quick fix, and the $17 billion in the infrastructure bill for upgrading America's ports may not be enough.
See, Singapore alone is building a $20 billion container terminal right now.
How did we get to this? I mean, I've seen the ports in Rotterdam and in Hong Kong, and they are light years ahead of us.
One problem with the U.S. system is the ports are owned by the cities that they're in. And ultimately the capital expenditure for building terminals, for dredging, for investing in these ports comes down to decisions made at a local level. This is a national infrastructure. It's to serve the entire country. So there's a real role for federal government to come in and step in.
The White House has put a top-level task force on the problem. But other than twisting arms and wrangling concessions, there's not much it can do in an industry dominated by private companies, foreign shipping lines, and local port authorities. And no one we spoke with expects a Christmas miracle.